Welcome to Simply Explained English. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
So, listeners, we made some small changes to our podcast.
First, you will hear a conversation between Jack and Rosa about, I understand English, but I can't speak it.
We have chosen some words from the conversation, and then, after the conversation, we will explain these English words.
We hope you'll like and find these small changes useful.
Okay, let's listen to Jack and Rosa.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. I'm Jack.
And I'm Rosa. Today we're going to talk about a common problem many people have when learning English, understanding English, but not being able to speak it.
Yeah, Rosa, I've heard so many people say this. I understand English, but I can't speak it. It's actually a very common struggle.
Absolutely, Jack. Many people can read, write, and understand spoken English pretty well, but when it's time to speak, they get nervous or can't find the right words. Why do you think that happens?
Well, I think one big reason is confidence. When we speak, we are afraid of making mistakes or sounding silly, so we end up not saying anything at all.
Yes, that's true. People worry too much about grammar and pronunciation. But remember, it is okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. No one speaks perfectly. Not even native speakers. We all have to go with the flow sometimes.
Exactly, Rosa. And another reason is that people often don't get enough practice speaking. They might read books or watch movies, but they don't have a chance to speak with others. Practicing is so important.
I agree, Jack. But even if you don't have a speaking partner, you can talk to yourself in English or try speaking in front of a mirror. Don't dwell on the negatives. Just keep going.
Great idea, Rosa. Another tip is to start small. You don't have to speak perfectly or use difficult words. Just try using simple sentences at first.
Yes, small steps are key. You could also participate in online groups or language exchange programs where you can meet people who are also learning. They understand how you feel, so it's a friendly environment to practice. As we said just before, just try not to dwell on every little mistake. Focus on enjoying the process.
And remember, it's important to have fun while learning. You can talk about things you love, like your hobbies, movies, or even what you did during the day. The more you enjoy it, the easier it becomes.
That's right. Learning a language is not about being perfect. It's about communicating and connecting with others. The more you try, the more progress you make.
Absolutely. So, to everyone listening, don't be afraid to speak. Make mistakes. Learn from them. And just keep going. You already understand English, which is amazing. Speaking will get easier the more you practice.
And don't forget to practice a little every day.
Bye for now.
Bye!
How did you find the conversation, Eric?
I like it. It was true. Many English learners have that problem.
I agree. Okay, what are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is silly. Then we will continue with go with the flow and dwell on something. Then to participate in. And the final one is progress.
Let's start with the first word.
Sure, the first word we're going to explain is silly.
Silly.
Now, let's see how Jack and Rosa use this word in the podcasts, and then we'll explain it in more detail.
Well, I think one big reason is confidence. When we speak, we are afraid of making mistakes or sounding silly, so we end up not saying anything at all.
Silly is an adjective, and it means foolish, playful, or not serious. If someone or something is silly, it's not meant to be taken seriously.
Exactly. When we call someone silly, we don't always mean it in a bad way. Sometimes it's just playful, or we're saying they're acting in a fun, lighthearted way. For example, if someone makes a funny face, you might say, "You're so silly."
Yes, it's often used when someone is joking or doing something playful, but it can also mean that someone is acting in a way that doesn't make much sense. For example, If someone is worried about something small, you might say, "Don't be silly, there's nothing to worry about."
Right. So, silly can be both positive and negative, depending on the situation. Let's look at an example sentence. The kids were being silly and laughing all day. In this sentence, silly means the kids were having fun, being playful, and not being serious. It's a positive and light-hearted use of the word.
Here's another example. It was silly of me to forget my umbrella when it was raining. In this case, silly means I made a small, foolish mistake. It wasn't a big problem, but it wasn't very smart either.
Let's quickly talk about when to use silly. It's a casual word, mostly used in everyday conversations. You wouldn't use it in formal writing, but it's great for talking to friends and family, or even when joking with someone.
So, if someone is being playful or makes a small mistake, you can use the word silly.
Okay, well, I think we've explained the word silly pretty well. Let's move on to the next word.
Okay, Lisa, the next word is go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Now, let's see how Jack and Rosa used this word in their podcasts.
No one speaks perfectly, not even native speakers. We all have to go with the flow sometimes.
Go with the flow is an idiom, and it means to accept things as they happen and not try to change everything. When you go with the flow, you relax and let things happen naturally without getting too worried or stressed.
It's like when plans change, and instead of getting upset, you just accept it and move on. For example, if your friends decide to go to a different restaurant at the last minute, you go with the flow by agreeing and enjoying the change.
Exactly. Here's another example. I wanted to plan everything for the trip, but my friends just wanted to go with the flow. This means that instead of making strict plans, they decided to see what happens. Another example could be when our plans changed due to the weather, we all decided to go with the flow and have a fun indoor game night instead. This means that instead of getting upset, everyone stayed calm and accepted the situation.
Go with the flow is often used. When we want to say that, we are being flexible and not stressing out about changes. It's a good way to keep a positive attitude.
That's right, Lisa. One more thing, go with the flow is an informal phrase. You would use it more in casual conversations. It's also quite common, especially when talking about plans or changes in everyday life.
So, listeners, remember, to go with the flow means to be flexible and accept things as they happen. It's a great way to stay positive and enjoy whatever comes your way. Okay, now let's move on to our next phrase.
The next word is dwell on something.
Dwell on something.
Now, let's see how Jack and Rosa used this word in one of their podcasts, and then we'll explain it in more detail.
You can talk to yourself in English or try speaking in front of a mirror. Don't dwell on the negatives. Just keep going.
Dwell on something is a phrasal verb, and it means to think too much about something, especially something negative. When you dwell on a problem or a mistake, you keep thinking about it over and over again, which can make you feel worse.
Right, Eric. It's like when you keep thinking about an embarrassing moment again and again, instead of moving on, you focus too much on it, which doesn't help you feel better.
Exactly. For example, if you say, "I keep dwelling on the mistake I made at work," it means you can't stop thinking about that mistake and it's bothering you. Another example could be, she tends to dwell on what people say about her. This means she thinks a lot about others' comments.
Dwell on something is often used when we want to tell someone to stop focusing on the negative. It's not helpful to dwell on things that have already happened and can't be changed.
That's right, Lisa. A quick grammar tip. Dwell on is always followed by the thing you're thinking about too much. For example, dwell on the past. dwell on mistakes, or dwell on problems.
So, listeners, try not to dwell on things that make you unhappy. Instead, focus on what you can do next to improve or feel better.
I completely agree, Lisa.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next word.
The next word we have today is participate in.
Participate in.
Now, let's see how Jack and Rosa used this word in their podcasts, and then we'll explain it in more detail.
You could also participate in online groups or language exchange programs.
To participate is a verb, and it means to take part in an activity or event. When you participate in something, you join others in doing it. It could be a meeting, a class, a sports activity, or even a group discussion.
Right, Eric. So, when you participate in something, you're not just watching. You're actively doing it. For example, if you participate in a meeting, you share your ideas, ask questions, and join in the conversation.
Exactly. For example, if you say, I participated in the school play, it means you were part of the play. You act or help in the school play in some way.
Another example could be, they participated in a charity event last weekend. This means they took part in the event, maybe by helping to organize it or joining the activities.
That's right, Lisa. A quick grammar tip. Participate is always followed by in, and then the activity or event. For example, participate in a competition, participate in a class, or participate in a discussion. One more thing, participate is a neutral word. You can use it in both formal and informal settings. It's also a very common word, so you'll hear it often in different types of conversations.
So, listeners, remember, to participate in something means to be part of it actively. It's a great way to show involvement and enthusiasm. Okay, well, I think we've reached the last word of today. What is the last word of today, Eric?
The last word is progress.
Progress.
Now, let's see how Jack and Rosa used this word.
The more you try, the more progress you make.
Progress is a noun, and it means moving forward or getting better at something. When you make progress, it means you are improving, even if it's just a little bit at a time.
It doesn't matter if the progress is big or small. Every step forward is important. For example, if you practice speaking English every day, even for a few minutes, you are making progress.
Right. Another example could be she is making progress in her piano lessons. This means she is getting better at playing the piano over time. Progress is often about learning or achieving something step by step. Just like Jack and Rosa said, learning a language is not about being perfect. It's about making small progress over time.
Yes, it's important to remember that progress doesn't happen all at once. It takes time and practice. Even small steps count as progress.
Now, let's talk about how to use this word. Progress can be both a noun and a verb, but it's more common as a noun. As a verb, we say to progress, meaning to move forward or develop, like his reading skills are progressing well.
Yes, and when it's a noun, we often use it with verbs like make, show, or see. So, Eric, would you say progress is a formal or informal word?
I'd say it's neutral. We can use it in both casual and formal situations. And it's very common, especially in education, business, and personal development contexts.
So, listeners, don't worry if things take time. As long as you keep practicing, you are making progress.
Keep practicing, keep moving forward, and remember, every little bit of progress is important.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found the words helpful and the explanations easy to understand.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English
And stay tuned. Bye for now.